Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage and today Sorry, I think I forgot to turn on my phone. 1 second please. Okay. Yes?
Pervert. Filthy, slimy pervert.
Who's that?
It's the one who will kill you, Jimmy.
Well, just another crazy fan. I guess that comes with all the YouTube fame. Well, never mind. This is Tenebre. Servus Freunde, my name's Jimmy Cage and this year's Halloween horror mayhem sure can be without another film by Italian filmmaker Dario Argento. Last year I talked about his most known movie, the 1977 supernatural horror extravaganza Suspiria. It was the first one in Argento's Three Mothers trilogy, with the next chapter Inferno being released 3 years later in 1980. But instead of concluding his trilogy with Tenebre, Argento went back to his giallo roots. The word giallo simply means yellow in Italian, and it derives from a series of cheap paperback mystery novels with yellow covers that were quite popular in Italy. The giallo is an Italian subgenre of the thriller, defined by a particular style that usually incorporates elements of horror like slasher violence and some eroticism. It often involves a mysterious killer whose identity isn't revealed until the final act of the film. The giallo was a very popular genre from the late 60s to the 80s, with dozens of movies being produced, and Argento's films were among the best. He started his career doing gialli, and except a few titles that are more associated with other genres, it's what he kept doing until now. From 1970 to 1975 he wrote or co-wrote and directed 4 gialli, of which all are quite good to even great. And after the more straight horror movies Suspiria and Inferno, he returned to it with Tenebre in 1982, which is probably my favorite film of his. By the way, after Inferno it took another 27 years until he finally did his third Three Mothers movie, La Terza Madre, Mother of Tears. In an interview, Argento has said the biggest motivation behind Tenebre was to create a brutal roller coaster ride full of fast and brutal killings. And he delivered. Tenebre begins like most great Argento movies do, with the ravishing music by the Italian progressive rock band Goblin, or how they are credited here, Simonetti Morante Pignatelli. A man is sitting in front of a fireplace, reading a novel and also wearing the Argento trademark black leather gloves. He tosses the book into the fire and the fantastic title music sets in. The story revolves around the American book author Peter Neal, played by Anthony Franciosa, who just finished his new murder mystery novel Tenebre. While he's visiting Rome to present his new work, a madman starts a brutal killing spree, and he's always finishing his acts by stuffing some pages of that book into the victim's mouth. Neal receives threatening letters and disturbing phone calls after each murder and decides to look for the murderer himself. And all the murder scenes are front and center here. They are shot and presented in such a fashion you could almost say they are becoming their own works of art. It's only fitting then that the murderer is taking pictures each time he's done. Pictures of his masterpieces. The presentation is brutal and sometimes gory, especially in the blood-filled finale, which was also a direct inspiration for Quentin Tarantino, as he has often pointed out. But I would prefer the term stylized instead of exploitative to describe what Argento is offering us here. He's giving us one sensual experience after the next, and it's a wonderful and of course macabre pleasure to enjoy the wonderfully compiled and photographed scenes. And they aren't just beautifully arranged, but also quite tense. The already mentioned score by Goblin and the masterful camera movements and cuts create a crackling atmosphere. Stunning is probably the right word for the exposure of the second murder scene, in which Argento and his director of cinematography Luciano Tovoli, with whom he already worked on Suspiria, drove the camera over the entire apartment of two young lovers. It moves its way very closely along the wall, ventures through the window for a few seconds, then continues up the roof until it suddenly reveals the hand of the killer on the other side who just manages to get access to a closed window. All this is done in one long 3-minute take and accompanied by the disturbing music by Goblin. The scenes are captivating and ooze a certain creativity to try out new angles, new movements, new ways to create thrills and spectacle. Argento let us take part in the murders, satisfy our voyeuristic desire. Many aspects of the film have become Argento trademarks or were at least used in several of his movies. Similar to Suspiria, our protagonist is an outsider, an American who travels to Europe. He's leaving his surroundings to find himself in this menacing but more so exciting and thrilling murder mystery, and so does the audience. There are also some disturbing flashbacks sprinkled in that show some memories from the past. Like in Profondo Rosso, aka Deep Red, these scenes mark an important key in solving the mystery. And like in that film, the music in those moments is haunting. Like in previous movies, there's also an important moment that has to be relived by a character to gather new information, new clues to reframe it and get closer to the real killer. The film is also commenting on Argento's critics. He always struggled with people criticizing his movies and insinuating certain messages that weren't intended. An important character in Tenebre is a literary critic who thinks to detect certain ideals in Peter Neal's new book, which might be acting for Argento's own work. I mean, the book has the same title as the movie, Tenebre. It seems he's having some fun with his own public perception and the way we consume such violent stories. Tenebre is probably his most meta film, exploring a lot of storytelling devices and themes associated with this kind of story: sexuality, desire, our inner darkness, and of course doppelganger, dark doubles. When Neal has just arrived in Rome, he and his assistant Anne, played by Argento's long-term partner Dario, are visited by two police inspectors, and Detective Germani and Detective Altieri really could be their lookalikes. There are several elements, characters, locations, relationships that are reoccurring throughout the narrative. I wouldn't say everything is coming together super clever, but it's definitely a very engaging cinematic experience. And don't expect a film treating all the gruesome murders that seriously. Instead, it's this thrilling rollercoaster ride. It's not a dark, brooding thriller that takes place in the rain with broken characters. Instead, everyone involved seems to have a lot of fun. Even the coroner is cracking some jokes. And the police inspector handling the case, who has also read all of Neal's books, is lamenting that he never guessed who the killer was in any of Neal's stories. If you're going to watch an Argento movie, you shouldn't be looking for realism, for down-to-earth logic and characters that always act rationally. I would position his storytelling approach in the realm of pure film logic or dream logic. It's like a thrilling pulp novel that keeps you entertained as long as you just go with the flow. Expect some rather far-fetched coincidences and some strange behaviors too. As usual, the quality of the performances is varying, and it's no wonder because some of the characters are really strangely written as well. And speaking about strange, apparently Argento's intention was to set the story a few years into the future. It is never mentioned in the actual film, and I'm certain no one would even notice, especially now that the movie is almost 40 years old. His idea was to show a world after some unspecified calamity took place, a world inhabited by fewer people with the result that the remainder are wealthier and less crowded. Yeah, it's a little bit weird, but maybe that explains why the killer is able to afford a super expensive and also beautiful mansion. It's a great lair and I really love to see that place on screen. The atmosphere and mood of Tenebre is quite unique. It's almost a bit sterile. Clear lines and bright surfaces dominate, which only creates a stronger contrast with all the scarlet blood exposed. And again, at the very end you are treated to one of the best kills in movie history. About the killer and the reveal I won't say much, only that I always enjoyed this twisted little story quite a bit. It's not without its flaws, but it's also so damn entertaining. If you wonder which language version you should watch, it's always a tricky question with these old Italian genre movies. They are usually co-productions with actors speaking different languages, and then in post everything is dubbed anyway. I guess the Italian version is the way to go, but I personally only know the English dub, which definitely has some cringy moments. But I'm pretty sure the Italian version has some as well. So in German I'd say, Tenebre ist ein richtig schöner, stylischer und kunstvoll brutaler Mörder Mystery Thriller voller audiovisueller Brillanz. Einer von Argentos besten. I give Tenebre 8 out of 10. It's more like 8.1, but I don't do that. Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about Tenebre, and also if you know any other movies by Dario Argento. You can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram and Letterboxd simply at the Jimmy Cage. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like, and make sure you hit that bell for Life to Tell.